Hey guys, this is Gotta Love Breath, and I had the strangest ass conversation with members of my family today. I'll tell you what, this is going to be one of those entries where I'm just going to go ranting off. I'm not even going to think about what I'm saying because I feel it's best to kind of react to this immediately after it happened. This sounds sort of strange, but let me just say that there's probably going to be some religious ranting in this. So if you don't like to listen to that sort of thing, and I can completely understand if you don't want to, please don't listen any further, because I'm probably going to end up saying a lot of things I don't really mean, and I'm going to end up making a complete ass of myself. But what ended up happening was that we got into a somewhat religious debate. It was more of a debate about homosexuality. And I got into this debate, and what I think is so funny is that both my mom and dad are gone, and that's all of a sudden when these debates always seem to happen. Okay, my brother and his wife came over, and my grandmother was over, and they were all having a conversation. Something about gay characters in television, and how it kind of... My grandmother talked about how it was disgusting, and I just sort of shrugged and said, well, why is it disgusting? And we got into this whole... It down-spiraled from there. It then became a discussion about how homosexuality is evil on their side. And I remember I rolled my eyes a few times, in which case that urged them forward to keep on giving me, well, you see, and I'm like, how is homosexuality evil? Give me an example of how it is. Well, statistically, homosexual couples are more likely to get STDs than normal couples. And I was like, yeah, well, that's their choice to go into that in the first place. And that's just dumb choice making 99% of the time. I mean, lots of straight couples get STDs too, or lots of people who sleep around with each other get STDs a lot. And they said, no, you don't understand. Since it's so much higher in the homosexual community, that means that ultimately they're affecting the entire human race, and so it's evil and should be eliminated almost entirely. This was their argument. And I found it hard to argue with that because I found myself backed up into a corner by... I'll be honest. I'll just be entirely honest, and this is where my bias comes in. I have never heard anyone complain about homosexuals except for those people who are religious. I have not. I have not heard anybody say, I have not heard anyone that I talk to anyways that have anything against homosexuals, except for Christians. I haven't met a single person. I think there's a natural bias about it. And I do, and it kind of disgusts me. Like a lot of things that supposed Christians' philosophy is. It kind of disgusts me. Okay, the whole concept of heaven and hell disgusts me. And I finally gotten to the breaking point where I'm like, I don't see any beauty in this at all anymore. It used to be at a point where I was like, well, I can understand where this can help people out, and like it helps enrich their lives, which I still believe it does that, and I still think that in and of itself in a religious environment is a beautiful thing. I believe if religion helps enrich someone's lives, then that's fine. But then you have basically this whole debate, it started off with me saying, well, what's evil about being homosexual? And then it started up being with all these statistics, which I'm sure my brother just threw out of nowhere. I love my brother. I just want to say this. I love him to bits. But I've been accumulating a lot of research. I'm like, research? Really? Yes, and it said that supposed statistical data that isn't exactly this, and that leads to the fact that homosexuals are evil. And that's basically what it comes down to. And I'm like, wait, so ultimately we should just ban everything then, because it might lead to some sort of... ultimate evil to humankind in the long run. We should censor all films. We should go in and just change all of humanity, sterilize it, make it squeaky clean, so that ultimately, in the end, we as a society don't go anywhere because we keep on denying the natural human nature. I'm sorry, homosexuality is a part of human nature. It's been there since the beginning of time. People who don't understand this, they do understand it, but they say that it's evil. And I don't understand that. To me, that's bigotry. That's no different from racism, which what I find so interesting, and it's like a nation that we have had so many huge leaps in the last 40 or 50 years as far as tolerance is concerned. And to complain about the fact that there's so many homosexual and gay, that there's a gay character in a television show, to me is sort of like, I don't know. Okay, you're fine with seeing people get shot in the head on television. You're fine with a heterosexual couple having near graphic sex on television, but you're not okay with a homosexual on television, a gay woman. That frustrates me. It's biased. It's pure biased. To me, it just seems evil to a certain extent. I don't know what to say. I couldn't believe a lot of the things I was hearing out of my own brother and out of my grandmother about homosexuals. The fact that they literally said straight out that homosexuality is evil. I don't understand. It frustrated me. It frustrated me all to hell, because I'm like, yeah, but you realize that your argument is ultimately flawed, because it's also proven that I felt like making up some kind of stupid, dumbass statistic. Well, you see, your argument is wrong because, I read this one study from the New York Times that gave some sort of statistic that could easily be biased. And it makes me frustrated because the only people, again, I hear anything about homosexuality from are all Christian. It frustrates me. I'm not saying Christianity is wrong. I'm not saying that Christianity, just as a thing, is evil or anything, because then I'm no good than they are, going out and saying, homosexuality is evil. Why? Because you can get an STD. And I'm like, yeah, but you can also get an STD from having unprotected sex. There's such a thing as common sense when it comes to sexual relations that every mother should tell their son. We should ultimately go back to the fact that I'm getting so flustered. I really am. We should ultimately go down to the fact that parents not talking to their kids about sex is the ultimate evil of mankind. And it is. That is the ultimate worst thing that you can do. And I think that's where a lot of STDs come from. Because they figure it won't happen to me. Because they were raised by parents who ignored that fact. It's sad. That is truly sad. And yes, it most likely is true that homosexuals get more STDs than normal individuals, but that's... I don't know what to say. It's... Does that mean that homosexuality is evil? No, because a lot of straight people get STDs too. Not always from casual sex, most likely from casual sex. Most likely from casual sex, but to say that homosexuality is evil just because of that, and that was the only thing they gave me. That was the only reason that they could give that homosexuality was evil, and why it shouldn't be portrayed in the media like that. And I think that's ridiculous. Okay, even if you think homosexuality is evil, how come you can't show it on television? You can show people murdering each other on television, you can show people killing each other, but you can't show homosexuality for some reason, or it bugs you and you say it's sick. I think it's time as a culture that... And most of American society has gotten over this already. Most of American society. It kind of reminds me of my grandmother... my great-grandmother, who was racist, because she was born in a time where it was more acceptable to be racist than it is now. Let's face it, throughout the 40s, 30s, 1920s, much racial slurs, just racism in general was higher than it is now. And it sort of reminds me, my great-grandmother and my grandmother in that sense, sort of remind me of each other. Because it's like, gays are evil. Okay, what do you have to back that up? Well, because, stuff. Because the Bible says so. I'm going to stop now, because I'm going to go into another big old rant about this, and I'm not saying anything, but I sure hope all of you have more common sense than to just, I don't know. It gets me to a point where I can't even say anything about it. It disgusts me so much that we can still continue to be so ignorant. Yet we have come so far, but we have got so much longer to go. This is Cuddle of Breath, and I am signing out. I sure hope that this is somewhat cohesive.